Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo. Bienvenidos, happy new year. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We're also delighted to kick off 2021 by speaking to two fantastic authors. Stephen Joseph will be here with us in a bit to tell us all about effective crankiness. But first we'll speak to Shaneisha Dodson, who is celebrating the Adventures of SugaMama. Hey, before our guest comes in, we gave a sneak preview of the Solve It for Kids podcast here on Reading with Your Kids, and it was so popular, it's like spun off. It spun off into its own thing. And my buddy, our dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson, is here to tell us a little bit about what's going on with this great new podcast. Hey, Jennifer, what's up?
Hi, Jed. Oh, I am so excited about our new podcast. We've been getting some great reviews. Everybody wants to find out what's going on and meet and listen to some of our scientists and engineers. We have done how do you map an underwater forest?
Yeah.
We have done how do you cut a person in half safely, of course.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have talked about improving your connection with water by going on a water walk, and we have watched Vanessa Brantley Newton create illustrations that come to life.
I took a water walk with my amazing niece. We had such a great time. I didn't fall into the water, but it was really, really fun. And I love the fact that all of our guests are giving our wonderful listeners challenges, really fun challenges that they can do together as a family. And that's so cool. Hey, tell everybody where they can find Solve It for Kids, because it's not on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's its own thing.
So please, if you want to keep listening, go over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and subscribe. And you can download all 4 of the first episodes that we have, plus listen to all the new ones we have coming out. You can also find on Stitcher Radio and, of course, through our website, solveitforkids.com.
Jennifer, thanks so much. Thanks for letting me be part of this awesome, awesome, awesome podcast.
Well, we make a great STEM team, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, join us over at solveitforkids.com. Joining us right now from the great state of Arkansas, she's here to celebrate her debut picture book known as The Adventures of SugaMama. Please welcome to the show, Shaneisha Dodson. Shaneisha, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm pretty wonderful. I'm really excited to learn all about your debut picture book. Tell us all about it, please.
All right. So the title of my book is The Adventures of SugaMama. So it's about a little girl who loves to help her mother bake. So she eats so many cookies, she falls asleep with her apron on. But she wakes up in the middle of the night, and that apron turns into a superhero cape. So she just goes around the world saving people until she gets tired. Then she goes home and falls sound asleep.
What a neat concept for a book. I love it. Where did the inspiration for this come from?
So I have a 3-year-old niece who I nicknamed SugaMama. She loves cookies and she loves bedtime stories. So I came up with the idea to create something that all, small children could enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that the book starts off with SugaMama cooking with her mom. We celebrate, we encourage families to grow closer by reading together. But reading together, that's just the first step. It's a great way for a family to get into the habit of doing things together. And from reading together, cooking together is another, just a wonderful, wonderful way for families to interact and be together, and exercising together and exploring nature together. So I love that it starts in the kitchen. but then it travels all over the world. What are some of the things that SugaMama is able to help folks with in the story?
So in the story, she sees this little girl crying. So SugaMama feels like, I have to help this little girl. I need to know why she's crying. So she goes in and she talks to this little girl, like, why are you crying? What's wrong? And the little girl tells her, it's a monster under my bed. And SugaMama said, I'm not scared of you. So she scares this monster off. And now this little girl feels safe and she can go to sleep. So with SugaMama, she's going to be fighting monsters. And then she's going to have a part 2 where she's going to take on a few more different type of scary things that children deal with.
Awesome. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is, in addition to being an author, you are an award-winning playwright. You're the founder of Black Girls Productions. And so you have a lot of experience being on stage and expressing yourself. One of the things that we encourage families to do is, when they're reading with their kids, is to get into it. No kid wants to sit there and hear their parents go, SugaMama was eating lots of cookies. They want to be involved, and they want to feel like they're in the story. What kind of tips can you give to parents? Because for some of us, like me, probably like you, being being silly in front of people and expressing yourself, it just comes naturally, to the point where it annoys my wife incredibly sometimes. But for other folks, it's not natural, and it's really challenging for them. So what kind of tips can you give to those folks who might be a little shy?
I would say, think about when you're watching a TV show. If you see this actor and they're reading every line like this, and we're not really understanding what they're saying, and it's very monotone, that show is not going to be very entertaining. So I always say, start from your gut and just work your way up. Think about when you see certain words, just put a little bit of more into that word. Kind of make it lively. Because if we're reading everything monotone, it's just going to be boring. Mm-hmm. But think about making it entertaining. So if you have to practice, look in the mirror beforehand. And practice raising your voice and lower your voice and making different facial expression. Because you think about it from a child's perspective, they want to be entertained. They want to go to sleep when it's bedtime, but they don't want to fall asleep when you're just maybe reading them a story throughout the day. So just make it entertaining.
Yeah. I like your suggestion about using your facial expressions, because there's one of the great sales techniques that I've heard from folks is smile. When you're on the phone trying to sell something to somebody, smile, because that smile gets reflected. Even though the person can't see it on the other end of the telephone, they can hear it, and it makes your message that much more powerful. And I think the same is true that when we're reading stories to kids, our emotions, our facial expressions should kind of reflect what's going on in the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about Black Girls Productions, please.
All right. So I started Black Girls Productions in 2012. So what we do is tour around the country doing stage plays that brings awareness to social issues. And I also have a children's play, Dog, Cat, and the Bird, and that's published with Drama Notebook. And we have just completed our first short film, which is titled Justice. So now we're going from plays and dabbling a little bit into film. But that's what we do. We tour around doing live performances, and now we're getting into film.
We've heard a lot about justice and equity over the past few months, and one of the things that the pandemic has shown us is that we are all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. We're experiencing this on very different levels, just from, older folks like my wife and I, my wife isn't older, excuse me, but, my wife with an older guy like me, with kids who are grown and out of the house. Our experience is very different than the family down the street with 3 young kids under 5 years old. How important is it for our art and our media not only to entertain but to educate and to try to make the world a better place?
It's very important because as learners, we learn in different ways. Some of us can read something and pick it up. Some of us are visual. Some of us are hands-on. So, from a child's perspective, children are very smart, so they can see what's going on in the world. And I think sometimes it's easier for us to show it to them. Like maybe in a book, we can explain like what injustice means. Maybe in a film, we can use something animated and teach them about the different things that's going on in the world, such as the pandemic, such as the different things that they're seeing on TV. And for them, it may be the first time they have been exposed to, these type of issues. So it's very important that in our art that we're able to help explain these issues because, like you said, things like that help make the world a better place. But yes, we can definitely get that done with our art, whether it be on a stage, whether it be a puppet show, magic show, or a cartoon. We can break it down to where a child can understand what's going on and to let them know that things will be okay. We just got to keep pushing until we get to the other side.
Now, I think I've shared this on the podcast in the past when I came, my family, there's no one in the arts in my family as I was growing up, just a lower middle class family working hard. And, when I decided to leave social work and to become a performer, and I let folks in my life, my family and my friends, when I made that announcement, it was not celebrated. It was, questioned, and it's like, did something happen to you? Did you experience a head injury? This is crazy. What about for you? Did you grow up in a performing family, or how did you get started in the arts and in performance?
So I got started in the arts in high school. So I used to compete in like duet improvisation, solo acting. And then when I went to college and got my first degree, I worked in the theater department. And that's how I got my fee waiver. So my background is psychology. I have 2 degrees in psychology, 1 in education, and then I'm working on a certificate for women entrepreneurships at Cornell. So I started earning about a 6-figure salary when I was 28. 2015, I walked away from that 6-figure income in order to pursue my purpose, which is in the arts. So some people were rooting me on. I'm so proud of you. I wish I had the courage. But then on the other side, you had people, who tried to inflict their fear on me. I wouldn't do that. Why would you walk away from your safety net? Why would you do that? But I did it anyway because I knew in my heart that's my purpose in life, is to entertain people with my words. So I stuck with it because sometimes you got to do what what is right for you, because the vision that's over your life, other people may not be able to see it. They may not be able to understand it, but we all have a purpose. And so when we get that calling on our life to step out in that purpose, we got to do it. Yeah. And then just see what happens from there. We got to have that faith. So believe in yourself. And if it's on your heart, this is what you're supposed to do in life, make it happen.
How can parents best support their kids' dreams of becoming a writer or a playwright or an actor or an other type of artist?
I would say exposure. If you know this is what your child wants to do, expose them to them. If you know your child may be interested in acting, find a local playwright, find a community theater, find some type of children's group and expose them to them. Because sometimes we want to do things, and then once we get exposed to it, we realize that's not really what I want to do. And sometimes we get exposed to things, and it makes us more hungry. We want to really get out there and get involved in it. But I would say exposure. Expose them to as much as possible and let them see if this is really what they want to do in life.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Now that you have the debut picture book, it's out, it's being received well. You mentioned that there's another book. You've caught the children's book writing bug?
Yes, I have. And I'm working on her next adventure. So we're trying to wait and see what SugaMama is going to do next.
I don't think I asked, what was your niece's reaction when she first saw the book?
When she saw it and we read the story, she was like, I want to be her. I want to be her. I was like, that is you. You were the inspiration. She's like, I want to be her. So she can read the story back to you verbatim. I uploaded a video of her on social media reading the story.
Awesome. Hey, you mentioned social media. Where can folks go to learn more about the Adventures of SugaMama and learn more about everything that Shaneisha Dodson is involved with?
You can find me on Instagram at BLKGIRLZ12, and that's Black Girls 12. You can also visit my website at www.blackgirlsproductions.com. So you can find out everything about SugaMama, all of our events, plays, everything we got going on.
Awesome, awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Adventures of SugaMama, Shaneisha Dodson. Shaneisha, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed myself.
Hey, we do hope that you had a chance to check out Reading in the New Year. We would love to know what you think about it. Please feel free to drop us a line. You can send it directly to me, jedlie@jedlie.com. That's spelled Jedlie. You can also go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button. Let us know what you think. What was your favorite video? Would you like to see us do this again? Thanks so much to everybody who took part in Reading in the New Year. We are joining you and hoping that 2021 is such a fantastic year for everyone all around the world. Right now, let's welcome Stephen Joseph to the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Joining us right now from the beautiful Berkshire Mountains in Massachusetts. He's returning to the show to celebrate our brand new book inspired by his children's book. The name of the book is Effective Crankiness, the Crankosaurus Method. Please welcome back to the show, Stephen Joseph. Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just hanging out over here and not feeling too cranky.
Excellent. So no sauruses. You're not dealing with any sauruses today.
There's always saurus, but since I wrote this Effective Crankiness book, I know how to deal with it.
That's wonderful. Now, we should start off. Stephen is the author of a certified great read, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, which is just such a wonderful, wonderful book. And I'm going to tell you a little story in a minute about an experience I had with The Last Surviving Dinosaur. A grown-up guide to effective crankiness is just that. It's a book, a fun book for grown-ups. And it was inspired by The Last Surviving Dinosaur. Why don't you just tell us the story of the Crankosaurus and how that came to life. It was a neat story that you tell right in the beginning of this book.
I was in Rome with my partner, and he was having a little cranky time. We were in Italy, Rome, Italy. Yeah. So, the electricity went out, and she was like putting color in her hair, and it was like dripping down her face. And it was just a really bad moment. And she was non-consolable. So finally it just came out of me that she was like a Tyrannosaurus. and she's like tiny, like you could throw her across the room. And that got a laugh out of her. And we created this Crankosaurus thing. So whenever we had this, almost like giving a name to our crankiness, like I have a Crankosaurus in me. Then it became a story, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus. And the Tyrannosaurus is why all the other dinosaurs disappeared. There was one little dinosaur who kept cranking out her saurus, so all the bigger dinosaurs couldn't take it anymore, and they all dropped dead, essentially. So that was the premise of that book. And then you get these reviews, and one reviewer said or complained that I didn't talk enough about overcoming our crankiness. And I said, well, wait a second. The whole thing is about embracing our crankiness. We're all cranky people, so I started writing this blog on crankiness.
One of the things we've talked about a lot on the podcast is that it's really important for us as parents to help our kids identify the different emotions that they're feeling. That, you know, little kids, they know they're not feeling great. They don't like the way they feel. But they don't understand that this feeling is anger, this feeling is disappointment, this feeling is sadness, this feeling is they're afraid. And a lot of times all those feelings just come out as anger. So it's important for us to help our kids identify those feelings and understand how to deal with them. I think the same is true for adults, and I think that that's what you're talking about in effective crankiness. It's when we're able as adults to just kind of identify, hey, why am I feeling this way? Well, I'm a little cranky, and you have a playful name for it. It's easier for us to kind of identify it and then deal with the feeling instead of just letting it take over us.
Yeah, well, there's two things about it, and I talk about it in my book. The first thing is, you know, like you say, like we're sometimes we have a difficult time talking about our emotions, and we always tell our kids, you know, say what you feel. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. Whatever. It's always good to talk about your feelings, and which is good. It's better than acting out. But the only issue that could come with that, if let's say you're so good about saying that you're angry every single day, you say I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. I would think like, wow, you know, you're very good at saying that you're angry, but you're probably an angry person, you know. So the thing about the Crankosaurus is that I'm not defining myself. I just have this. I have a Crankosaurus in me, mm-hmm. and then I make it safe to let it out, to let it out, you know, just you can have that family time where you're letting out your Crankosaurus, and everybody has empathy. It's about having empathy too. And it doesn't make it like personal. So for example, I have a chapter, Crankosaurus Quarantine, where, you know, sometimes you might do something like we're together and you might be doing something that kind of like irritates me for like 9 times, and I don't say anything, and the 10th time I blow up on you. Now what happens, you might like all of a sudden you don't understand, like Steve was okay the first 9 times, and so all of a sudden you can't trust me anymore. Mm-hmm. And then for me, I'm thinking, why are you so upset with me? I didn't blow up first 9 times. I should get a trophy. I should get an award, like a medal. So the thing about it, like if I have a Crankosaurus, it's not about you. It's about, I just have this thing in me, and I have this thing that the infection rate is 100%, which is a high infection rate when I last checked, 100%. So when it's 100% and we all have it, you know, it's something we have, and it's okay to let it out, but how to let it out safely and not make it about the other person. It's just because it's what we have. I have the common Crankosaurus. You have a common Crankosaurus maybe a couple times a day or a week, whatever. It's fine. It's okay. But, and it's healthy to just express it and even have fun with it and laugh about it and make it safe. And again, with people having empathy, it's not like, okay, you know, I could deal with it. I'm not going to like say, how could you be so cranky? It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't define you. It's just something that's innate with all of us. And that's why I created Tyrannosaurus and how all humans evolved from the Tyrannosaurus. So we all came from this dinosaur that happened to be very cranky. So that's, you know, it's all science. It's very scientific.
Very, very scientific. How did you become, I don't know if the word is crankologist? You know, where did your fascination with this come from?
I'm an attorney, and I do a lot of negotiation, and I do like, you know, through mediation, and I'm on the negotiation side. So I end up like we're dealing with cranky people, and I manage a lot of litigation. People get sued all the time, and they get to be cranky, and just life presents us with a lot of cranky moments.
Mm-hmm.
But even from the negotiation point, it's like how to maneuver through this minefield. There is the minefield of a negotiation, where, and even when I do negotiation, and I'm trying to resolve a case, it's always important for me to, make the other side feel like they won, that they're the winners, so that's a whole different area, but it's that mindset. It's like, how to make the other person feel better about whatever situation it is. And so that's where I'm coming from. And it allows me to deal with crankiness in this way that, makes it, it's okay. It's okay to do like something that's bad. No, it's actually good and it's normal and you could breathe through it. So when you can breathe through it, it makes it easier. It makes it easier to deal with.
I'm imagining that over the last 9 or 10 months of the pandemic and various lockdowns, that there are a lot of people experiencing a lot of crankiness and crankosauruses.
Yeah. It is something that crossed my mind. Like I wrote this book. I started writing this book, and I actually went to the publisher, signed up with the publisher back in March, just before the pandemic hit. So this book, I didn't do it because of the pandemic. I didn't say, there's a pandemic, I have to write this book. The book most of the crankiness book was written prior to the pandemic, even though I was able to add a lot of stuff, some of it with the pandemic in mind. So I did have Crankosaurus quarantine in there. I did have Drive Me Crazy Crankosaurus in there. A lot of important things like that is helpful for somebody living through a pandemic or living through a quarantine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I want to share with you an experience I had, Stephen. I was out in Chicago about this time last year, out at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, and I met this lovely family, and 5 or 6 kids, I think. The oldest was 14, and then there's a bunch of little ones. And I said to the 14-year-old young woman, I said, "What kind of books do you like to read?" And she turned to me. She said, "I hate reading. I never read. I don't want to read." And I actually had a copy of The Last Surviving Dinosaur right next to me. And I said, "Do me a favor. Just read this book. Just right now. Just read the book. Read out loud. Try to pronounce some of those words." And the kid had a blast. She turned and she brought her siblings in, and she started reading this book, and she was mispronouncing Crankosaurus and Cavetosaurus and all these other words, but it was fun for her. And when she finished it and she handed me back the book and thanked me, I said, "Do you think you'll try to read some more?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm going to try to find some books that are fun." So that's a memory that I'm always going to cherish. That The Last Surviving Dinosaur was able to hopefully help this young woman relearn her love for reading and story.
Yeah, that's great. That's so great. And that's what I'm hoping with this book. It allows people feeling that they could be cranky. That because a lot of times, and the funny thing, somebody asked like what research I did, and I look up online crankiness, like what people write on crankiness, how not to be cranky, how to get rid of the cranky. It's all about getting rid of how not to be, making it something bad, and I actually make it something acceptable. And just like sing and making it softer. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm hoping that you'll get people thinking a little bit differently and seeing their crankiness in a whole different light.
Well, I think this is going to be a great gift for anybody who is an occasional crankosaurus in your life. I think it's a great gift to give to yourself, too. Stephen, where can people go to find out more about you and find out more about your book?
This book now is published by Archway Publishing. And right now it's available on Archway Publishing's website. So in terms of like Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and everywhere else, while you could pre-order it there, it officially gets released January 19th. But if you wanted it now, you go to Archway.
We've been speaking to the author of A Grown-Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, The Crankosaurus Method, Stephen Joseph. Hey, Stephen, thanks for taking time to be back with us today.
Oh, it was great fun, great pleasure. Thank you, Jed.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Chris Tomasi, celebrating borders. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Shaneisha Dodson. Check out the Adventures of SugaMama. We also want to thank Stephen Joseph. We want you to check out Effective Crankiness. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.